Hey everybody, this is Russell Franchise. A new episode of the Frenzy Presents Fantasy War Room is on its way. But first, if you love podcasts, and I know you do, show some love to this great podcast. They support us, so you should support them.
Hey guys, this is Steven with the Culture Bum Podcast and the China Ratchet Podcast. I'm an ESL teacher bumming it up in China, and on the Culture Bum, I interview other travelers about how we got where we are, tips and tricks, and share stories of our many adventures. Over at China Ratchet Podcast, me and Randy, the Loser Lao Wei YouTube star, discuss relationships between the US and China by dissecting the news with a lot of humor thrown in. Look for us in iTunes and Stitcher at the Culture Bum Podcast or China Ratchet Podcast, and you can always find me at theculturebum.com.
Welcome everybody to the Frenzy Presents Fantasy War Room. Russell Franchise again with you this week. Thanks for giving us another shot to give you some Fantasy GOAT this week. As always, I'm joined by Fantasy Buddha himself, Matt Carroll. What up, sir?
Hey, Franchise. How you doing, that buddy?
I'm doing all right. Before we got on the phone, I got to say, I watched the first couple of minutes of The Muppets on ABC because this show is all about ABC. It's actually it's worth your time.
You know, I think I have it taped. I am looking forward to watching it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, but outside of that, how has your week been? How has your fantasy week been?
Fantasy week wasn't bad. I got the win in the XFL.
Mm-hmm.
Had a 3-4 week, but you know that's fantasy for you.
No, you want to hear?
I did on the draft teams. I did do very well. I had I joined a $3,000 payout and finished 101st out of 1,200 members. So I had a $7 payout. So not bad. I won a little money.
Nice. I'll tell you guys about my fantabulous day at DraftKings later on because we got a whole lot to get through. Who to start, who to pick. Got some injury questions that are on everybody's mind and everything else under the sun. Might even drop some Doctor Who. Did you see Doctor Who this week?
No. We have it taped. Still trying to finish the Capaldi series.
All right.
We're about 3 episodes in, and I was very disappointed, but we didn't make it. So
you failed the city, sir.
I know. I'm sorry. It's been a very difficult time dodging everything that I have to do.
All right. Well,
to make sure I don't have any spoilers.
No, I'm not going to spoil anything, but the first 5 minutes of that show, phenomenal, just simply phenomenal. And we'll talk about Doctor Who. You'll probably drop a Dancing with the Stars reference in just a couple of moments. But first, before we do anything else, I got a voicemail from James Lamberts, and
this guy again.
You know what it is? I lost this week, so I'm afraid to answer this because I know it's going to be him gloating. So, the things we do to give you guys a show. So, are you ready, Matt?
I guess as ready as I'm going to be.
All right, here it is. A word from the XFFL commissioner, James Lamberts. Our own Mike Adamley, by the way, James Lamberts.
This is James Lamberts with your weekly Extreme Fantasy Football League Commissioner's Report. Then there were 2. Only 2 teams remain undefeated in the XFFL. They are Straight Cash Money, who Russell lost to.
I told you,
rub
it in my face.
Is a team named I Love Me For Me, who finished dead last year. It's okay, Russ. My team got smoked by the Steel Curtain. To add on to the dismal performance by my team, I received a text message from owner Tremaggio saying this was the second win by his Steel Curtain versus my team in the league's history. I guess it's a game that's on his calendar.
He listens to the show.
Speaking of a game on the calendar, Matt, if there was ever a game that rivaled the Popcorn Bowl, it would be this week when #GPR plays against your return around Mexico. What's your address again, Matt? I'd like to send you a care package from Charlotte. You're gonna need it. Get your popcorn ready. This league is known for having several trades during the season, but it's week 3, and there has yet to be one made. I've got to admit, as an owner of DeMarco Murray and Des Bryant, I've been sniffing around. Heck, even Matt has yet to make an in-season trade.
And that surprises me.
What's up with that?
Yeah.
In other league news, it's been requested by some owners that this league creates a last-place trophy.
Me.
So many other leagues do this, but we have yet to do so. Our emphasis
Okay.
in the league has always been on rewarding the champion. As one former champion, to you two have also drank from the Champions Cup, I'm interested in what you think on this topic. That's all I've got for this week. Hey, Matt, let me know when you get my care package.
Thank you, Commissioner Lamberts.
It's like, it's like I said, he sounds like Tom Tom, and if that's this trash talking, what's your address? I will send you a care package because you are going to be sad.
Yes.
When I beat you.
I will give him credit. In most trash talking, no one is ever so considerate as to send a care package to the losing side. It's usually the other way around. Wow.
I mean, it's just like, whatever. Okay. I got something for you at the end of the show there, buddy.
Oh, man. Well, couple of points. First of all, James, Trey listens to the show, so if he wins this league, he's gonna have to split the money with us. So, I'm sorry, Trey, that's already guaranteed. You're splitting the money with us, because you're gonna be...
And if you win the championship, you have to buy it dinner.
Yeah. And we are some expensive horse there. Second of all, and this is probably the most important one, I think there's got to be a last place championship, because it's natural ribbing, man. I think every league's going to have a winner. Every league's going to have a loser. I think, though, that you encourage the loser to do their best. I mean, look at it. I Love Me Some Me is 2-0, right? Love Me Some Me is 2-0 right now. So, it sounds like we could be seeing something right now. All right, let me start that over again. 3, 2, 1. My second point here, I'm here. 3, 2, 1. My second point here is the fact. No. Sorry about that. I had someone pop up on my phone. All right.
No worries.
All right, 3, 2, 1. All right. My second point is the fact that I think you have to have a loser's trophy. There's always going to be a winner. There's always going to be a loser. And I think the losing trophy inspires the other person to do better. I mean, hell, I Love Me Some Me was last place in the league last year. Now they're 2-0 to start the season here. So I think it must be done.
He does have a very good team, though. Let me pull that team up right quick, just to kind of give you an idea. He had the third overall pick, and he and I ended up trading. I of course traded up to the third spot with the overall, which ended up being the second overall because of the keeper league, and he's averaging looking at about 147 points a week, give or take. And that league should be pulling up just in here. That team should be pulling up. Here you go.
Mm-hmm.
He ended up with Emmanuel Sanders in no particular order. Emmanuel Sanders, Julian Edelman, which has been a great pickup, Shane Vereen, C.J. Anderson, Zach Ertz, Ryan Tannehill, Vincent Jackson, Blake Bortles. So obviously he skimped on quarterback pretty much early on with C.J. Anderson with the first pick, and then Emmanuel Sanders was a keeper of his.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a pretty good team. Yeah. Tannehill and and Bridgewater, and Blake Bortles, he's got a lot of value there at quarterback, and all of those were picks 10 or later.
And I'll be completely honest, I'm looking at his lineup right now. He's actually playing it coy because you look at his lineup, he doesn't really have his quarterback, one of his running backs, tight end, flex, or defense showing up. So I think he might be throwing some smoke on his opponent this week. We don't need no meows.
I've never understood that because at the end of the day, it's not like you're actually having the game plan against somebody.
Right.
I mean, if somebody can explain to me why it's important to not to set your league at that point, I mean, whatever.
I can kind of see the game. I mean, like, you look at Don't Need No Meows. He's got Peyton Manning as his quarterback. I love me some me. He's showing Sanders right there for the Denver. So pretty much it's almost like saying, if Peyton Manning throws a touchdown to Emmanuel Sanders, it's a wash minus the receiving yards that Peyton Manning would get. Is actually going to be more in Brian's case to have Emmanuel Sanders because they'll at least get a point for the catch.
Yeah. Well, I can go ahead and tell you, he talked about, for what it's worth, he talked about Peyton Manning is being shopped. James let you know that DeMarco Murray is being shopped.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go ahead and let you know that as somebody who does a lot of trading, who's always looking, for the next step up, for the next upgrade if possible, I've talked to both of them, and this is going to just let you know that as you're starting to shop players, you have to be concerned about their values of what they are worth now, what they've been worth, what they're worth now, and what they're going to be worth. So to give you an idea, DeMarco Murray, outside of his 5 catches, isn't worth anything. If you're not in a PPR league, DeMarco Murray is probably not getting you 5 points per game. But Lambert ballsily asked me for Cam Newton and Todd Gurley earlier today.
Ooh. And
my wife is sitting across the room, and she just gave me the stankiest look ever, like, is he on drugs? So, you have to keep in mind that going forward, as you start to make those trades, you kind of have to put a balance on it because, DeMarco Murray was a 350-point player last year. Right now, he's a 13-point player in the best of leagues per week, tops.
All right.
He doesn't have a touchdown. He's barely breaking 50 yards rushing.
Yeah, so with DeMarco Murray, the game Sunday night, you didn't really get the best of DeMarco Murray. And, they actually played it up as if this was going to be, one of the biggest games of the week. You didn't really see that much from either side. After Tony Romo got injured, it pretty much kind of went tepid when Brandon Whedon came out, and the Philadelphia Eagles weren't able to do anything on either side of the ball to help the case out.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest with you, and this is where I didn't watch a lot of that game. I really thought Sting was going to win the championship and Seth Rollins.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously John Cena did. So I spent most of my time watching that pay-per-view, which, WWE did a really good job of with that one, just for what it's worth.
Every match except for, I'm trying to think which match kind of really stunk the bed. The umpteenth Rusev versus Dolph Ziggler match. Every other match was good except for the umpteenth match against these two.
Yeah, that promo or that whole line is done. I really enjoyed Paige's heel turn last night.
Yeah.
And when she said that, I'm not worried about Lana or Summer Rae. Their only concern is who they're going to climb on top of next.
Right.
So
I will say this, and this is the beauty of HD television. Summer Rae, pretty good. I mean, like, she's a nice looking piece of talent. Nice girl. You know, one thing I noticed, if they catch her from far away, she's very hot. Just very hot. As soon as they go deep inside her face, like a tight shot in her face, she starts to look like a troll.
You wouldn't say no to that troll, so I don't know what you're trying to do.
But I mean, like, no, I mean, like, I'm not putting her down, but it's just like, I think, like, the camera angles that they try out sometimes just kind of backfires.
I think she's an attractive woman.
I mean,
I'll be honest with you, we have, and as he says, I think she's an attractive woman. I'm watching the girl on Flip or Flop.
Right.
If you've never watched Flip or Flop, you're not watching Flip or Flop.
Flip or
regardless, I think Summer Rae looks better in the Lana suit. The business suit. I think Lana looks better in the acid wash denim jean jacket thing. I mean, I'm so glad that they ended up making that change. Now, I don't know what they're going to do with Lana. Did she wrestle in NXT? I don't remember if she did.
She wrestled, but they kind of converted her to manager.
Okay, see, I'm still yet to get into the NXT thing, so.
And you know what? We'll add that to our bucket list. Just to break down an episode of NXT on the Fantasy War Room, sir. But.
Yeah, there's one coming up this week.
Yeah.
Anyway, on the fantasy stuff.
Alright. So, let's get to the big news, because there's a lot of big injuries this week. Tony Romo's out to week 11 with a broken left clavicle. Drew Brees is going to be out for the foreseeable future because of a sprained rotator cuff injury. Jay Cutler is out for 2 weeks with a hamstring injury. With the exception of Jay Cutler, you have 2 quality quarterbacks that are going to be gone. How do you see fantasy owners possibly playing it out if they do have either a player affected by these changes or injury, or the injured person themselves?
Well, I'll go ahead and tell you that I don't know, outside of Terrence Williams, if I would start anybody from Washington Dallas, except for Terrence Williams.
Right.
Just going forward, that's a really tough situation, and it's not like they have a proven running back to go to. Right.
Now, I did receive word that as of taping right now, the Bills did trade the Cowboys. They gave them Matt Castle for somebody. I don't know any details. That'll come out later on, but at least Dallas does have Matt Castle.
I'd rather have is it Brandon Wheaton?
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather have Brandon Wheaton. I don't think that's a significant upgrade. Just my opinion. As far as the situation in New Orleans goes, I had not heard at this time. I'm glad you told me that. I had not heard that Brees was out. I heard that he was seeking a second opinion about a sprained rotator or a bruised rotator cuff.
Bruised rotator cuff. I might have said sprained, but it's bruised.
I would love that for Mark Ingram, who I own in a couple of leagues. Again, you're going to have to pay close attention to the C.J. Spiller aspect of it, but I still think that Spiller's probably going to get a lot of the work in between the 20s, and Ingram's going to kind of be your third down and goal line back. And then who was the third?
Jay Cutler.
Cutler, yeah.
The gutless wonder.
Yeah, I tell you, that's really, who's going to end up picking up for him?
I think we actually talked about this on the Frenzy, which you can listen to now on Facebook, Facebook.com/franchise frenzy.
Cool.
The only space to listen to the Frenzy outside of iTunes, Podomatic, and YouTube. Don't have it, but there's been talk of, Jimmy Clausen?
I'll tell you what using the XFFL, I will tell you what is available now. Again, it's a 12-team PPR league. And you gotta think about it though. A lot of quarterbacks typically in that size league. Now there's going to be more available in a 10-team league. But there's typically more quarterbacks available this early in the season. But because of the crummy play of Peyton Manning, because of the issues in Washington, because of Drew Brees not being that great, the early injury to Tony Romo, it's pretty slim. So to give you an idea, starting quarterbacks are Andy Dalton, Alex Smith, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Kirk Cousins, and that's it.
You know,
XFL.
Andy Dalton to me smells like the sexy pick.
I think that's probably your best bet. He's obviously head and shoulders over anybody else that's available, but Kirk Cousins is a sneaky good pick.
He is
well.
Andy Dalton is actually Andy Dalton is only owned in 31% of Yahoo Fantasy leagues.
Yeah.
Which is
that is surprising, and that's somebody who has 483 yards, 5 touchdowns, one of which was a 40-yard or more touchdown. And I mean, he got good receivers there. So yeah, I mean, if Andy Dalton's available, I'm trying to think of who else would be available. And part of what's playing into this is that Marcus Mariota, is at a team that wouldn't typically have a quarterback that's owned. Jameis Winston on a team that doesn't have a quarterback that's typically owned. Tyrod Taylor,
right.
A team that's not typically owned. Derek Carr, Teddy Bridgewater. All of these quarterbacks are playing on teams that typically wouldn't have their quarterbacks, owned unless it's a 2-quarterback league. And now you kind of see why there's such a, in a 12-team or more, why there's a lot of quarterbacks being owned.
Right.
So I don't know if you only owned Tony Romo or if you only owned Drew Brees, which I don't typically in a 12-team or more, I don't typically recommend. I would definitely spend the high free agent pickup or the free agency waiver wire spot to go pick up a Andy Dalton, a Marcus Mariota. I don't know if I would do it on a Johnny Manziel, but if trying to think of what speaking of Dan he came on. I don't know if I'm trying to think of Carson Palmer is going to be available. I know I've had it for 2 weeks, but if he's available, then he's probably my number one pickup.
Let's switch over. The surprise team to me, and week 1 we were all talking about Marcus Mariota and his 4-touchdown performance. The surprise team for this week, in my opinion, were the Raiders, with Derek Carr coming in, the backup of McGloin. And then we saw the emergence of your boy, Amari Cooper, as a threat. Is this a prime time, if you haven't already, to invest in these two guys?
Yes, absolutely. I think that, I was hesitant to start both Cooper and Carr, and the way that they handled that Baltimore defense with a very good secondary, that was a big step in their game. And I'm not saying that they're ready. Carr is definitely worth a start in a 2-quarterback league. He's my number 2 quarterback all day long. If I have one of the top 10 quarterbacks, I'm going to choose him over there. I have Carr as number 12 quarterback overall.
Mm-hmm.
So, that being said, if Derek Carr is available, if for some reason Amari Cooper is available, they're definitely pickups. I don't know if I would go and trade for him just yet, only because their asking price is going to be so high.
Mm-hmm. Let's switch it up now, because, I'm going through the notes, and one of the things that, you had, highlighted for me, Dion Lewis.
Yeah.
As the featured back of the New England Patriots, and right next to it, ... WTF.
Okay, so I collect football cards, right?
Yeah.
And I pulled like 3 or 4 Dion Lewis cards.
All right, you're gonna have to start that back over.
All right,
Hear
me now better?
Give me 1 second. All right, go.
So I collect football cards, and Dion Lewis, man, I pulled like 3 or 4 of his autos a long time ago,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just funny that I didn't even know he was still in the league, to be completely honest with you. I don't know if I should be ashamed of that or if I was like everybody else in the world, but Dion Lewis, I mean, I didn't realize it. Week 1 had 15 attempts for 69 yards and no touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
In week 2, had 7 attempts, 40 yards and a touchdown. He's now owned in 36% of leagues, up 3% today. And the reason that I specifically wanted to point that out is that you have certain teams, and New England is probably the best team out there to best exemplify this, that you just don't know what they're going to do on a week-to-week basis.
Right. Because Belichick, Belichick can pretty much, if he wants to go pass heavy, he'll go pass heavy. If he actually wants to run the ball, you might have a running back who normally doesn't really do much of anything for the Patriots have a career day.
Yeah. So, that being said, I've always preached, be careful against, or be careful against, or starting, or drafting, or starting a New England or running back. And this is definitely the time to, to heed those words, because you just never know what those guys are going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it all boils down to scheme.
All right. Well, let's stick to one more running back. It's been 2 weeks we've been 2 weeks in the season, and we have yet to see the emergence of Todd Gurley, the star running back out of Georgia. Had some problems with the lower leg. They're projecting that he'll probably come back this week against the Steelers. Now, we take a look at it. Benny Cunningham had an amazing week 1. This week against the Redskins, they weren't able to do much of anything on the ground. So, is it worth a shot if I have Todd Gurley to start him this week?
That's going to be, if you have Gurley, and I have him in 2 leagues, that's going to be the kind of thing that you're going to want to be sitting there at 12:30, and I would only start him at running back 3 or flex. It's definitely a high upside, but I can't imagine that he's going to get more than 10 carries. They're going to play it safe with him, I think. That being said, I would probably still start him because I haven't seen anything else from the St. Louis running back core. But I would not set my roster on a Saturday evening and then walk away from it on Sunday and go to church or whatever it is that you're doing on a Sunday morning and feel comfortable that he's going to start. I think you'd be sadly mistaken.
So you're not completely sold that Todd Gurley would be a roster lock going into this week's game?
Yeah, I don't think he's a lock by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, let me ask this, because Lacy Eddie Lacy went out with a ankle injury in the first quarter of the Packers win against Seattle Seahawks. Lots of talk have been floating around Starks, who had an amazing game, 95 yards, for the Packers.
Yeah.
What type of value can I get with James Starks that I normally wouldn't get with Lacy?
Well, hopefully, and I know that you weren't in this situation. If you have Lacy, hopefully that you went and picked him up in your draft or in free agency as your handcuff. And again, you always want to have that handcuff on your roster, particularly for your running backs. Now, to give you an idea, Starks is still only owned in 13% of leagues.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to go game by game here. After Lacy went down, he had 20 attempts for 95 yards, so no touchdowns.
Right.
But that was still good for 12 points in most leagues. So the point about that is that Starks is probably high running back too. And just so you know, if I classify somebody as a high running back too, that means that I would start them as my number 2 running back, and I would also be comfortable starting them in a flex.
Right.
So Starks, I believe on most teams, definitely the bottom 15 teams of the league would be the number 1 running back. He would be a running back by committee. But with Sexy Eddie Lacy there in Green Bay, he's obviously Lacy's going to get the majority of the carries, as shown last week when he only had 2 attempts for 2 yards. Starks did, not Lacy. Going forward, I would think that he's probably going to be getting the majority of the carries for the next 2 to 3 weeks. If you are I wouldn't go out and trade for Starks right now, just because if you're a Lacy owner, if you are a Lacy owner, I would go out and try to trade for Starks. Okay, but I wouldn't put the farm down for him.
Okay.
If you don't own Starks, I wouldn't go out looking for him, just for the simple fact that it's not a long-term running back. You're probably more likely to get better value from later on down the road from a player like a Jonathan Stewart or a C.J. Spiller or a Mark Ingram, a Darius Murray. I would be more apt to go searching for somebody like that. So only go shop for Starks if you are, if you're looking for. If you need that handcuff to Eddie Lacy.
All right. Who's your star to watch on Dancing with the Stars, sir?
Honestly, I don't have one yet. I'm just enjoying Bindi every week. She's just so sweet. I had a soft spot in my heart for the Crocodile Hunter, and I just don't have a favorite yet. There's nobody that really cranks my tractor or anybody that that's a star. Now there are tons of the dancing professionals that do it, but there's nobody that that's super sexy. There's nobody that I think has a really great story. So I don't know. I'm just enjoying the season.
All right. So not even crazy Gary Busey can.
Gary Busey, there's no way he's going to stay on there for very long.
He's got hope.
There's no way.
He's got hope. Let's see. Hope. I'm trying to think of an anagram for hope. Hope, helping others potentially exceed. That sounds like
No, I don't like it.
You don't like? Let's see. Hope. I got hope. Helping one pop everyone. No, that does.
I'm gonna have to give you the loser horn on that one as well.
How does he come up with anagrams on the spot? He has an anagram for everything.
People are much smarter than us.
Well, with that being said, Sarah, do you have any time to answer some questions of mine?
Absolutely, let's do it.
And now, it's that splendid time where Franchise asks Matt the same 4 or 5 questions he asks him every week!
Alright, who am I starting this week?
You are going to start Dante Moncrief.
Ooh.
Yeah, man. Pull up his stats here for a second.
All right.
I went through and picked up Moncrief on the free agency last week after I saw that he had a pretty good week, and I knew that T.Y. Hilton was going to be out. Moncrief had 11 targets last week for 6 receptions and 46 yards. This week he had 8 targets for 7 receptions, 122 yards, and a touchdown. He had a touchdown in both weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as long as T.Y. Hilton is probable that he's going to be somebody, he's definitely the number one there, in my opinion, going forward. And even when T.Y. Hilton returns, the best receiver is going to draw the best coverage.
Right.
And so that's going to leave Dante Moncrief open, going forward. I'm sorry, I had a complete dog break. That's going to leave him open in the going forward to still get at least 6 to 8 attempts or targets every week.
Right. So, and I mean, the Monday night game, I was, let me ask you this. I meant to ask you this earlier. Is it time to panic if you have Andrew Luck on your side?
No.
Because last night's game, you could tell that he was actually reading the defense. He was doing his job. It was just everybody else wasn't catching his balls or anything like that. Is it time to get out of Dodge, or do you give him one more shot?
I think you definitely give him another shot. And I'll tell you that the turnovers are what scare me more than anything. But quarterbacks are going to go through lulls, and even a quarterback as good as Andrew Luck. And I still think he has a pretty good receiving core around him. He doesn't have his favorite target. But he's quickly establishing that relationship with Moncrief. And I think that, they also don't have a very good running game. All the pressure is on him. And the thing to remember is that he's played the Browns and he's played the Jets. Both teams have very underrated defenses.
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland has one of the best secondaries in the league. So, and the Jets are nothing to shake a stick at. So I'm not that concerned about it. I know that they're starting off 0-2, but you probably drafted Luck with a top 15 pick, and that's just not something that you walk away from.
All right. So, who am I not starting this week?
This one is tough for me because I own him in a league. I own him in the XFL, and I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with him on a week-to-week basis. But the person that I'm going to be sitting this week is Jonathan Stewart.
I don't blame you, sir.
Stewart, do what?
I don't blame you.
Yeah. Now, if you are in a super deep league, 12, 14 teams or more, and then you're going to have to obviously, play this one kind of smart. But the thing that concerns me about Jonathan Stewart, and this is what's concerning me about all the Carolina Panthers players, is that they're going to get a lot of action between the 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And that's evident. Jonathan Stewart had 35 attempts for 118 yards, 18 points overall. He also gets a fair amount of targets. He is averaging about 2.5 a game for 22 yards. So he's PPR relevant to a certain extent. But the thing about Jonathan Stewart is that once they get down into the red zone, which is where you really need him to excel and put him over the top, those touches go to Cam Newton.
Right.
And you're also seeing a regression of Greg Olsen in the first 2 weeks. I think the only person who has a touchdown reception from Carolina is from Cam Newton is what's that receiver's name?
Benjamin. No.
Not Benjamin. Ted Ginn Jr. I think it is.
Yeah,
my wife is saying Ted Ginn Jr. So that's concerning. And Cam Newton his passing right now is very erratic. He's not on target. And you can tell by Cam Newton's numbers that he's just as likely to take the ball and run with it because he doesn't trust what he's doing through the air. To give you an idea, Cam Newton has 24 rushing attempts for 111 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Right.
I take that back. He does have 3 touchdowns. So maybe there's more to than Cam Newton, to take in. But once you get down in that red zone, they're not gonna pound the ball with Jonathan Stewart. And until that happens, what can you do?
Yeah, so the time,
I'm benching Jonathan Stewart.
all right. Yeah, I could, to me, I kind of felt that, Carolina kept the wrong running back, especially when you look at the fact that D'Angelo Williams set the Steelers record with 3 touchdowns on the ground. No, ties the record for it. D'Angelo Williams, looks like the better back. He's probably gonna have his role limited now that Le'Veon Bell's back on the lineup. So, something to look forward to. Alright. Who should I pick up?
I actually have 2 players that you're gonna want to pick up. The first one, is a name that's, as they like to call it, and this is not me being original, but he's a true fantasy zombie.
Mm-hmm.
And he plays for my Atlanta Falcons, Mr. Leonard Hankerson.
Hankerson.
Owned in only 4% of the leagues. I can tell you right now that Hankerson going forward is somebody you're going to want to have on your roster as a potentially wide receiver 3 in a deeper 12 team or more league. In a 10 team or 12 team could be a shifty spot start. He's had in 2 games he's had 15 targets for 8 receptions and 93 yards and a touchdown. Now the number of drops does scare me a little bit, but it's the same issue issue that we talked about with T.Y. Hilton. Julio Jones, who's having a monster year, is he's always going to command the number 1 corner the number 1 corner, and that's going to leave the number 2 man open.
Right.
And Leonard Hankerson is definitely the guy that I think Matt Ryan is going to be passing to.
All right.
All right. The second pickup that I have for us this week is a player by the name of Travis Benjamin.
All right.
Now he's owned in 16% of the leagues, and that's up 4% from earlier this morning. He plays for the Browns, and in case you haven't noticed,
the Browns.
The Browns. Johnny Manziel actually had a fairly decent game if you don't factor in the 2 turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that reason is Travis Benjamin. He's averaging 4 targets a week, but I take that back. Last week he had 3 targets, 3 receptions for 89 yards and a touchdown. This week he had 4 targets, 3 receptions, 115 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So the numbers are skewed a little bit towards the touchdown side, but he's definitely the favorite target of Johnny Manziel. He's going to open up the middle of the field, and while Johnny does have a really strong arm, he's not a very accurate person. And Travis is the kind of guy who's going to go up there and get the ball for Manziel. And somebody that you're definitely going to want to be picking up. He's probably a strong flex option at this point. But, just keep an eye out for him.
All right. So, yeah, hell, Johnny Football gets his first win against another Heisman Trophy winner. Which now mean, I think there has to be a rubber match now between Winston and Mariota one more time to see who's the worst.
Well, for sure, Marcus Mariota's got to work on his turnover problem, but Marcus Mariota is, right now, he's legit.
Right.
I mean, I started him in a league, in a standard scoring league, and I think, or maybe it wasn't a standard scoring league, but he is a legit number 1 quarterback right now, in a 12-team or more league. If you're looking for if you're kind of skimpy on, say you have, like we talked about earlier, Romo goes out, I have no problem with you starting Marcus Mariota.
All right. Who's got to go?
Man, I'm gonna tell you what. It's about time to call it quits for Roddy White.
Yeah.
I know he's still owned in 85% of leagues. I think a lot of that is name value. Last week he did have the 8 targets, but he only had 4 receptions. The saving grace was that he was, out of those 4 receptions, it was 84 yards. He was not targeted at all. He was targeted one time and did not have a reception.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's going against a good Dallas defense. He's going against a good Houston defense. And then he has a very sneaky Washington defense. So, maybe we're calling it a little early, but you might want to try to shop Roddy White, and see what you can get for him at this point. Or you may want to consider, hey, look, at some point, just call it is. It is what it is.
You want to hear something funny, sir?
What's that?
I'm on my ESPN league. I just submitted a waiver claim to add Travis Benjamin and drop Roddy White. So
if that doesn't work out, you're going to be pretty mad at me, huh?
Pretty much.
I think that that's probably, depending on how much depth you have at wide receiver, you can probably make that. I think there's a lot more upside right now to a Travis Benjamin if you have the depth there. I was trying to pick Benjamin up in the XFL, but I also have Cobb and Moncrief and Cooper. I think it's definitely worth it there.
All right, and who should I shop around for?
So there's a player in Washington. He's RB2, but his name is Matt Jones, and there was a lot of speculation about the running back situation in Washington going into the season.
Yeah, he had a monster. He had a monster game. 123 on the ground with 2 touchdowns. Yeah,
he did. And 19 attempts. Now that was 1 attempt more than Alfred Morris. And so the Washington Racial Slurs have a really difficult decision on their hands. And what I think that's going to, in my opinion, end up being is a true running back by committee with a 50-50 split going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's great if you're a Racial Slurs fan, but if you're not, and you're a fantasy owner, that's obviously going to be pulling a lot of the carries away from Alfred Morris. But if he doesn't have the 2 touchdowns, he's averaging a 12-point day, which is pretty daggone good. But some days there's going to be Alfred Morris today to run the ball. So I would shop him and see what you can get. I think Matt Jones is probably flex worthy at this point in a deeper 12-team league. I don't think he's a start in a 10-team league.
Mm-hmm.
But something you just need to keep your mind on and see what's out there. I actually tried to make in a deeper 14-team league, I actually tried to trade for him earlier today, and the guy said, get the hell out of here. So we'll see what happens.
All right.
Hey, this is Nicky Falcone, and franchise's get-rich-quick scheme of the week is completely on the up and up.
All right, let's try to get rich. Last week, Fantasy Buddha had one hell. Last week, Fantasy Buddha gave his lineup, and you had a hell of a day. Carlson Palmer, Benjamin Sankey, D'Angelo Williams. Pretty much, you had, one of the top quarterbacks, the top running backs, the top tight end on your side, scoring 154 points. I, however, did not feel so well because I actually thought of the value side. They had Nick Foles and Benjamin Cunningham, Carlos Hyde, Beasley for Dallas, ODB, Jones, Jordan Reed, I think Julio. No, I had James Jones, Julio Jones, and then of course I thought the Ravens could actually do their job against the Raiders. You know, it's such a hard job to stop the Raiders at home, but I only had one night, 115, and I'll be honest with you, I play I also do the prime time matchups where you set your lineup for the 2 night games, the Monday night and the Sunday night games. Going into that game, I was feeling pretty good because I had just, the top 225 get paid, and I was at 229. So anything, it's like anything Luck does or anything that Chris Ivory can do to help me out will help me out. It quickly backfired to where now I finished like 700th. So I did not get rich this week, but I plan on doing it this week. Here's my lineup, sir, because I think I learned my lesson. Sometimes you can go value, but sometimes you gotta go where the matchups are. And I think I found the best matchup. So with my DraftKings account, quarterback, I got Russell Wilson going against Chicago. With Doug,
Russell Wilson against Chicago. I really like that one.
With Doug Baldwin as my double dip. Bernard with the, Gio Bernard, running the ball this week against the, trying to think of who the Bengals are playing this week.
I don't know who the Bengals are playing, to be completely honest with you.
They're playing the Ravens.
Okay.
So I think that sounds like a sexy pick for me. All right. Latavius Murray going up against the Browns here. Should be good. Dante Moncrief, Emmanuel Sanders catching TDs from, Peyton Manning. I took a chance on Greg Olsen as my tight end. And it's surprising. You know what's surprising? The Jets are still as good as they are defensive wise. They're still a relatively cheap defense at $3,000.
Yes.
Which allowed me,
I'm glad to hear you say that.
which allowed me to save up just enough money to get Gronk against Jacksonville.
That's what you gotta do, baby.
Yeah, so, I used everything. I have $900 left over.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a lineup myself, and for some reason I cannot find it.
I think you're bullshitting.
No, I'm dead serious. I don't know where it went. I must have not saved it. So while you've been talking, I've been trying to quickly put one together.
Mm-hmm.
And if you'll bear with me just 1 second, I'm about to that point where I have it done.
All right.
Only problem is I only have $900 left.
Yeah.
So let me, I'll tell you something that I've been sneakily doing, okay? And this has been working in fantasy, and it's been working in regular fantasy as well, is that I'm looking for high-end matchups with tight end, particularly in daily. So I'm going with the high-end running backs and a high-end wide receiver,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going in and keeping a sneaky flex tight end play. And one of those tight end plays that I'm liking, and we talked about him, I think it was either week one, it had to have been week one, was a guy by the name of Scott Chandler, who used to play for Buffalo, but now plays for New England. Now, the thing about him is that he's getting 3, maybe 4 pass looks a week, or targets, but they're all in the red zone. He only had 3 receptions this week for, I want to say it was about 35 yards. But the 2 drops that he had were back-to-back looks in the end zone. So it's obviously somebody that he's an option, after Edelman and after Gronkowski for Tom Brady. But with that offense, you got to figure they're going to have 2, possibly 3 touchdown receptions each week.
Mm-hmm.
So to kind of give you an idea, here's where I'm at right now. Derek Carr as my quarterback against the Cleveland defense.
Okay.
Now, I think Cleveland's defense is good, but I like Carr at the $5,300 price point. Mark Ingram against the Carolina defense is probably going to be missing Luke Kuechly. Probably not going to have Drew Brees. I think they're going to be running the ball early and often, and I expect to have Mark Ingram to have a big game. Chris Ivory against Philadelphia. Ivory's been a stud. I have no issues. He is probable. Therefore, I may end up taking him out of this as I go along. Double dipping with my wide receiver one, Amari Cooper, at a $6,200 price point. I really like that. I expect him to become much more expensive within the next couple of weeks. Julio Jones, I'm always going to have Julio Jones in my fantasy lineups until he proves to me that he shouldn't be.
Even despite that, I mean, he's good, but I mean, like, I was going to top myself out of it. 13 for 135 yards, but no touchdowns, so.
That's fine. The thing about, you want the highest, daily fantasy's tough because you want the big points, and it's difficult to do that. So what you want to try to do is you want to try and find somebody who's going to average you with their matchup, in my opinion, 13 points.
Right.
In regular fantasy, I try to aim for somebody who's going to have 9 to 10 points. I'm trying to find somebody who I think is going to, who with the matchup is going to garner me 13 to 15 points.
All right.
Trying to skew more towards the 15 lineup. And I think that, I think Julio Jones is going to continue to do that. He's either going to get you 100 yards or 115 or 120 yards and no touchdowns, or 85 yards and a touchdown. And at the end of the day, that's still roughly 15 points.
All right.
So, Dante Moncrief, a really good wide receiver 3, especially against the Tennessee defense that I think is going to give up a lot of yards. Gronkenstein, Scott Chandler at the price point of $2,700. It's a boomer bust, but at flex, I feel like I can make that. I can pay that low with that kind of upside, and I'm still going to be covered with Cooper and Jones, Ivory and Ingram, and then I too have the Jets defense. Their numbers are going up though, and I tell you another smart one. Let's go see what they would be right quick. Is the Browns? The Browns are forcing a lot of turnovers. $2,900 price point. Still have $800 remaining salary, so I have some money to give. I have some areas that I could potentially go up and pay up if I want to. This isn't the lineup I'm going to go with, but I'm going to keep this one in my queue, and as I go forward throughout the week, that's what I'm going to be looking at.
All right. And we'll post once the lineup is final. We'll post it at facebook.com/franchise frenzy, the only place to catch the frenzy in all its forms. And with that, it's near the end of the show, but before that, it's time to cut some promos. And I got to be honest, Matt, you got James Lambers, and as we heard earlier, there's apparently a care package being sent from Charlotte, North Carolina, down to the Buddha house in Charleston, sir. So he says that he can beat you. Are you going to take that care package, or do you have a care package of your own?
Listen here, franchise. The first thing I want to be done is I want to get that piece of crap out of my fantasy football league.
What?
Just don't get him out of the league.
What?
Get him out of the XFL, because I've proved, son, without a shadow of a doubt, you ain't got what it takes anymore.
What?
You're a former champion.
What?
You sit there and you thump your Bible and you say your prayers, and it didn't get you anywhere.
What?
Talk about your Psalm.
What?
Talk about your John 3:16.
What?
Return of Run Mexico 3:16 says I'm going to whip your ass.
What?
I hope you took your money, and I hope you saved it. I hope you didn't send that package priority.
What?
I hope you send it standard.
What?
And I hope you take you $1 and
What?
you go buy you a cheap bottle of Thunderbird, and you try to dig back some of that courage you had
What?
back when you were something in this league.
What?
I don't give a damn what they are.
What?
They're all on my list.
What?
And that's Return of Ron Mexico's list.
What?
And I'm fixing to start running through each and every one of them.
What?
As far as this championship match or this throwdown match is considered,
What?
I don't give a damn. I don't care if it's I don't care if it's talking practice.
What?
I don't care if it's get your popcorn ready.
What?
I don't care if it's a damn steel curtain.
What?
Return to Raw Mexico's time has come.
What?
When I get that shot, you're looking at the next SFL championship.
What?
And that's the bottom line, because Return to Raw Mexico said so.
Wow. You brought Stone Cold to life like no one else before. Amazing, sir. Brilliant.
For some reason, I felt like it was easier to talk with a list last week than it was to try and enter and channel my inner tech.
Well, the thing is, like, you know, Stone Cold isn't dead, so he's still roaming the earth. You know, Dusty Rhodes has just entered my body, and so, you know, it still gives me tingles, sir. It still gives me. Yeah, but let's see. How do I want to look? I get it. I lost the straight cash, homie. You know, it happens. The best loses to the best, but I'll tell you this, sir. You know, I'll be damned if I lose to Dan this week. Leaping Lions? First of all, who the hell names their team Leaping Lions? Lions don't leap. Lions jump. Lions attack. You're gonna say leaping? What, so I'm gonna walk through the jungle? I'm gonna walk through the desert, and all of a sudden, there's a lion? Oh no! It's leaping towards me! No. Lions don't leap, sir. Lions attack. Fortunately, that's something that your team can't do. Oh, you got Gronkowski? Oh, you got my sloppy seconds? You got my sloppy seconds over there, Gronkowski. Well, I hope... Yeah. I hope you enjoy my sloppy seconds, because that's all he is, sloppy seconds. Phillip Rivers, joke. Brandon Cooks, oh, without Drew Brees, major joke. Oh, Allen, joke. Murray, oh, he's going to be great for my daily fantasy. He's going to make me my money, but he's not going to make you closer to winning this game. Blunt, I hope you have weed. I hope you have enough weed in the world to get through the suckfest that Blunt is going to leave you, sir. Kansas City defense? Kansas City defense, which allowed the Broncos back in the game last week? Come on, man. You're going to leap after me? You think you can get this easy win? I'm sorry, sir. You're talking practice, son. Look, you got me on a bad week. You got me on a week that I lost. So you know what I got to do this week? I got to shut you down. And I'm going to shut you down with what I have. Matt Ryan, Julio Jones. Matt, I mean to tell you this. It's the Julio Jones show, baby. It's late night with Julio Jones, with Matt Ryan and the Atlanta Falcons leading the way for me. Pierre Garçon, Greg Olsen, Dan Bailey, the Carolina defense. They will all conspire to take you down, Dan. Because at the end of the day, we're not fearing Leaping Lions. We're not fearing Jobu as your stupid ass icon for your team. Are you saying that Jesus can't throw a? Are you saying that Jesus can't throw a spiral? Is that what you're saying? We're talking practice, son. But seriously, can Jesus throw a tight spiral if it counts?
He's Jesus. He can do whatever he wants.
Right, I'll buy that argument, sir. Thank you, Matt, for coming in. Fantasy Franchise Buddha on Twitter and Instagram, so it's where you can find him. Thanks, Matt.
No problem, buddy. Y'all have a good week. Best of luck to everybody.
All right, always. Hey, listen to this week's Frenzy with Jeremy Harriott for Geek Street Collective online right now. Just find it here on iTunes, Podomatic, YouTube, or Facebook.com/FranchiseFrenzy. Until next week, enjoy week 3, and good night and good luck.
Come on.